Hello, everyone. I wanted to take some time today to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and that is context windows with LLMs, and specifically why they're so important. And for those of you that may not know, just describe exactly what they are and why they're so important. And basically, a context window you can think of as analogous just simply to human memory and how far back that memory goes. So, if you were thinking, for example, about asking two people the same question, maybe asking a parent a question and asking another person who you've only known for a week the same question. For example, what's my favorite food? And you would very likely get extremely different answers. The new person might say, I saw you eat pizza last week, so it must be pizza. Whereas your parents would have a much longer answer. You used to like this when you were a kid, but then we realized you had an allergy to that, and then you started liking this. And then lately, as you got older, you enjoyed this restaurant, etc., etc. The amount of context, the amount of history that goes into understanding what you're asking and the quality of the answer that you get is critically important, particularly moving forward with LLMs when you might want to give an LLM your entire life story, everything that has ever happened to you from birth until now, or maybe not everything, but everything you can remember that's significant. Maybe even uploading various things, pictures or documents. Could go for business or health. What would be nice is for that model to have the context of your entire history and know you almost like a person that's known you for 10 or 20 years might know you. And that's likely where we're going with LLMs. We're not there just yet. One of the problems is that the context window is only so big. In the case of ChatGPT, there in all of them, and in ChatGPT, you have a memory limit where eventually you just simply run out of memory. If you've not seen it before, let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you've got the pro version of ChatGPT, you can go to your settings. There is a personalization section where you've got memory. It remembers past conversations and information across conversations. What you talked about a month ago, it still remembers, and it factors that into its response to you. Just like I was giving you the analogy with somebody that's known you for a long time. The only problem is this memory eventually runs out. If you're a heavy user, the question becomes, what can we do about this, if anything? And that got me thinking about the problem. I started to work out a solution that I wanted to demonstrate to you and created some code that I put on GitHub for anybody that wants to use it or try it. I just want to give you a quick demonstration of how it works. So let me just transfer over to that quickly. Please hold on. And real quick, let me summarize before I go into the actual demonstration some of the things that the code does. First and foremost, it tracks your token usage in real time to avoid exceeding limits. So when you're in ChatGPT, you only get so many tokens. Depending on the plan you have, the maximum right now is 128,000 tokens. The problem is that it doesn't track that token usage. You can't ask it at any given time what the usage is. There is a library I'll show you when we get into the code that will actually do that. It's called tick token. So there is a way to implement that into code and count that token usage and display it so you know where you're at. The idea is once you get close to the maximum amount of tokens, you summarize the data. You've got a sliding window with that context window. So I'll use the analogy again, going back to your life. Let's assume you're trying to tell someone your story from age 1 to age 30. And the problem is that the context window is only 10 years long. By the time you start getting to year number 11, the window slides up from 2 to 11, and then from 3 to 12, and so on and so forth. So as you're extending the story, you're losing more of the original part of the story. You're losing context along the way. So there's a way to deal with that, or a workaround that this is really what this is designed to do, is that once you get near that window limit, you take the context of everything that you've put into it at that point and you summarize it, you condense it down. And the code allows you to determine what level you want to condense it to. Let's say you've used 2,000 tokens. Do you want to summarize that down to 10% of that? Or do you want to keep a whole bunch of those details and only summarize it down to 75% or 50% of that? It triggers near the end to summarize what you've put in to what percentage and level of granularity you want, and it wipes the context window clean except for that summarization. Now you've only used a little bit of the tokens and you have all that new memory space left to start adding to the story. So it allows you to be efficient. We don't remember every single thing that happened in our life, but we remember the really important highlights. That's basically what you're asking the code to do, summarize and highlight the highlights. It'll also handle other kind of documents, PDFs, Word documents. You can put images in there. You can keep track. It's modular in design. You could build on it if you want to. It displays the token usage and gives you an idea when you're nearing your limits. Let me go ahead and jump over to the code and show you that part. Okay, so I've jumped over to the actual NVS code, and the first thing I want to emphasize is it's relatively basic. I did this afternoon in a couple of hours, and ironically even had a little bit of coding speed assistance from Claude. It was actually better and more accurate at working with ChatGPT's API than ChatGPT was itself. Let's just take a quick look. I'm not going to scroll all the way up to the top. This is available for download. I'll put the link for GitHub. If you want to play with this and expand on it and share back, that would be great. Let me show you the basics. So you start out and run the code, and it immediately tells you it's GPT-4. The tracker is initialized. It gives you the how to upload documents, images. Summary ratio is currently at 50%. So when you're about to hit your threshold of your maximum tokens, how much do you want that information summarized down to? 10%, 20%? You could even make it dynamic and have it just simply adjust based on how much you need for your newest prompt. And to exit the session, you just press exit or quit. Let's put in a simple question. We've got a few ready to go. So what were the notable events of the 1970s? And you can see that alone used 40 tokens, just putting in that prompt. Depending on the speed of ChatGPT and the API, there we go. We got our answer back. I am going to open this up in the text editor. It's a little easier to read. You can see the question alone was 40 tokens, and it gave us the answer, and that brought us up to 780 tokens. So if we now want to keep expanding on that, was the 1970s, we can say, tell me about the major historical event of the 1980s. And keep expanding on it, and you can see over here that it's still running. It's still expanding our output, and we're just waiting for a response back. You can see that question alone went from 780 tokens up to 800 tokens. Now we've got the 1980s that are in here. By the time we got to the end, now we're up to 1,621 tokens. So I'm not going to bore you by going through every single decade and showing you how it counts up the tokens. I think you get the idea. This is analogous to a long life story, that if you want to track every single thing in history, you're racking up these tokens higher. It would be great to maintain all of them so that any questions you ask have the context of the entire history. Once this token count gets up to the threshold, which right now is set just a little under 128,000, the maximum for the latest version of the latest model of ChatGPT. It sets the trigger and it creates a summary. It clears the context window of all the tokens. It creates a summary of all of that information and puts that into the current context window, so however many tokens that takes, and then it frees that space for you to continue. It allows you to build on your history and manage your token usage so that you can have longer context windows within the confines of ChatGPT's memory and context window maximum. They've talked about maybe sometime next year having unlimited memory available. That'll be exciting if we get to that point. But for right now, this would be a way to work around that. And once you want out of there, you just type exit and then it stops the whole thing and you're out of it. So that's it, pretty basic. But if you want to maximize your memory and you want to build a long story and you want to know how many tokens you're using, you want to know when your context window is getting ready to slide, in other words, you're about to start losing your original context, it will alert you to that. And when it gets there, it will summarize that data, clear the context window so you're starting fresh except for that summary, and you can build on top of there. So that's pretty much it. I hope you found that interesting, maybe triggered some thoughts and stimulated some ideas about how you could use something like this. Once again, I'll put the link for this to GitHub, and please take a look at it yourself, build on it, share back. That would be great. Thank you very much.